Tonight, the unanimous decision on the abortion pill.
This is not a cause for celebration, because the reality is certain things are still not going to change.
The news coming out of Washington tonight upholding the legality of the abortion pill. More than 6 in 10 of abortions in the U.S. are carried out through this medication, meaning that the ruling will impact millions and millions of women. How the White House is reacting and what Republicans are saying about the ruling as abortion remains a key issue heading into November. Plus, new storms after record rain. A tropical storm system hovering over the state of Florida, rescues, deadly crashes, and the heat wave coming to the east. We will have a report from the ground. And
وبلشوا يكبوا البضاعة ويهجموا إذا بقرب على السيارة يجي يضربوني وطبشوني ما خلوش ولا يجي إذا بتحكي حرف معاهم بضربوك عنف يعني بخلوش إشي عم أقتل جايين.
Catastrophic hunger and famine-like conditions. That is what the United Nations is now warning is occurring in Gaza every day. In tonight's prime focus, we report on the West Bank settlers questioning whether the aid being sent to Gaza is getting to those in need and blocking them from entering in the process. Good evening, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Schulze in for Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We are following those stories and much more, including Donald Trump on Capitol Hill for the first time since his supporters stormed the building on January 6th. The Republican members of Congress who once condemned his role that day now welcoming him. Plus, the new declaration from the Justice Department and the Police Department, it now says engaged in civil rights violations against its residents. And he is the world's third most richest man, and he just got a huge pay package that rivals the GDP of dozens of countries. We take a look at Elon Musk and the billions he's now adding by the numbers. But we begin with that major Supreme Court ruling leaving access to the abortion pill mifepristone unchanged, including being able to get it through the mail. In the unanimous ruling, the justices all agreed that the doctor suing did not have grounds to bring the lawsuit in the first place. But tonight, abortion rights advocates are worried that the ruling does not shut the door on others from bringing similar lawsuits. In response to the ruling, anti-abortion rights groups vowed to fight to restrict access to the medication, saying this fight is not over. And there are still a number of hot-button cases the Supreme Court will issue rulings on before the end of this month. Devin Dwyer is standing by with more on those. But first, our Terry Moran leads us off from the Supreme Court.
Tonight, a unanimous Supreme Court has upheld access to the widely used abortion pill mifepristone for now. All 9 justices found common ground in rejecting an effort by anti-abortion rights medical organizations and individual doctors to roll back the FDA's regulations that provide access to the drug for millions of American women. Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who wrote the opinion for the court, noted the plaintiffs have sincere legal, moral, ideological, and policy objections to elective abortion and to FDA's relaxed regulation of mifepristone. But that's not enough, the court ruled, because the plaintiff doctors failed to show that they were personally, demonstrably injured by the law. That's a bedrock requirement of constitutional law known as standing to sue. And the doctors' moral qualms don't qualify, Kavanaugh emphasized, writing, those kinds of objections alone do not establish a justiciable case or controversy in federal court. Kavanaugh also warned that if these doctors could bring a court case challenging federal laws, so could others, posing this hypothetical. The government repeals certain restrictions on guns. Does a surgeon have standing to sue because he might have to operate on more gunshot victims? Abortion rights advocates welcomed the ruling.
Hugely relieved that the court threw the case out, but frankly angry that we ever were there to begin with.
But they know the court has left this controversy open for future fights. Medication abortions account for approximately 63% of all abortions in the United States, and today's ruling means that in most states where abortion is legal, women can still receive the pill by mail and without seeing a medical provider in person first. But there are currently 14 states with a near total ban on all abortions, including the use of this pill, mifepristone, medication abortions. In addition, 5 more have taken steps to restrict the practice of prescribing abortion pills by telemedicine or delivering the pills through the mail. Anti-abortion rights activists today vowed to keep up their fight.
It was disappointing, but it's not the end. We'll be out here again.
And Terry Moran joins us now. Terry, as you reported, the Supreme Court did leave the door open for future fights against the FDA and mifepristone. What's the status of those fights going forward?
Well, Elizabeth, first they know that they at least have one vote to take the case. Justice Kavanaugh says that there may be other plaintiffs out there who could bring a suit. He doesn't say who, however, and already 3 states, Idaho, Kansas, and Missouri, have sued the FDA. They claim that the agency's policies around mifepristone interfere with their state law, impact their state budgets, and that case could be back at the Supreme Court, could come to the Supreme Court within a year or two. Elizabeth?
Big day there at the Supreme Court. Terry Moran, thank you. Our Devin Dwyer, who covers the Supreme Court for us, joins us now from Washington. Devin, there are still 24 more opinions coming. What else are you looking for from the court?
Yeah, it's crunch time for the Supreme Court, Elizabeth. More than 24 cases still yet to be decided by the end of the month. So a lot on the line, including another major abortion case that could come down as soon as tomorrow. That case deals with the question of whether women in emergency situations need to be able to have access to abortion in hospitals funded by the federal government. That could apply nationwide, even in places where abortion is banned. That could be decided tomorrow. We're waiting for 2 gun cases, including a case on whether the ban for guns for domestic abusers can stand. Also, the ban on bump stocks, the device used in the deadliest mass shooting in American history, whether that can pass muster, that could come down. We're also waiting to see from the justices whether cities and states can penalize people for sleeping outside. It's the biggest case on homelessness in more than 40 years. The justices could decide whether cities can use ticketing to get people off the streets. The multi-billion-dollar historic settlement with the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma and the opioid crisis is on the line. The justices will decide whether that payout can go forward. And also big cases dealing with questions on social media. Can states regulate the social media platforms and how they moderate their content and the algorithms that run the feeds that we see? And of course, the biggest case that a lot of people are waiting to see this court decide is whether former President Donald Trump has absolute immunity from criminal prosecution in these cases involving the special counsel. The court has never taken up that question before. It has said former presidents have some immunity in cases of civil liability, but this will be a historic and momentous decision, not only deciding for this president, of course, and whether a trial could move forward by the end of the year, but for all future presidents. So some major decisions on the horizon, Elizabeth, just in the next 3 weeks.
No question about that. Some blockbuster cases ahead, and the time is short here. Devin, know you're going to be watching it all. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Tonight, former President Donald Trump is back on Capitol Hill. It is his first visit since the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Republican members of Congress right there with him, including Senator Mitch McConnell, who once said Trump was responsible for January 6th. Senior congressional correspondent Rachel Scott reports from the Hill.
Tonight, Donald Trump appearing on Capitol Hill for the first time since his supporters stormed the building on January 6, meeting with Republican congressional leaders.
We have great unity. We have great common sense.
Some Republican lawmakers sounding starstruck.
He saw me in there and he was like, "Hello, Marjorie." He's always so sweet and recognizes me. And he said, "Are you being nice?" He was joking. "Are you being nice to Speaker Johnson?" And I said, "Eh." And he said, "Okay, be nice to him." And I nodded my head.
Even Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, who once called Trump practically and morally responsible for January 6, today shaking his hand. Behind closed doors, Trump reportedly attacking the city of Milwaukee, where Republicans are holding their convention next month. Punchbowl News reporting Trump told lawmakers, "Milwaukee, where we are having our convention, is a horrible city." When word got out, House Republicans rushing to offer explanations. Some saying Trump was specifically talking about crime in Milwaukee, while others claimed he was actually talking about election integrity. Trump later insisted he was talking about both.
Rachel Scott joins us now from Capitol Hill. Rachel, how are other Republicans responding to Trump's meeting on the Hill?
Yeah, well, Elizabeth, as we saw those top Republicans rally behind former President Donald Trump, we also heard from another Republican today, and that was former Congresswoman Liz Cheney. She was the vice chair of the January 6th Select Committee. She insists that Donald Trump and his, quote, collaborators will be defeated, going on to say that history remember the, quote, shame of leaders like Mitch McConnell, who she believes enabled them. Elizabeth.
Rachel Scott, thank you. Joining us now for more is Rick Wilson, 30-year veteran of national Republican politics and co-founder of the Lincoln Project, a group founded by moderate conservatives who oppose Donald Trump and Trumpism. Thanks so much for your time tonight, Rick. As Rachel reported there, Senate Minority Leader McConnell once called Trump practically and morally responsible for January 6th. Today, He shook his hand. What do you make of that about face?
Look, the Republican Party stopped being a party governed by any kind of ideological or philosophical principle a while ago. And this represents, I think, really the final capitulation of the old guard. You know, Mitch McConnell is not a fan of Donald Trump. He does not like Donald Trump, but he recognizes that Trump owns the MAGA base, and therefore he owns the Republican Party. And all of these guys are clinging desperately to power. And Donald Trump is the one thing inside that Republican base, no matter how much it hurts them politically or at the ballot box, they're going to stick with Trump because they've morally collapsed.
Do you see this embrace of Trump at all as a surprise? I mean, of course, we had seen already how Speaker Johnson go to Trump's hush money trial, stand right by him.
They're all required now to make these symbolic gestures about Donald Trump. They're all required to publicly bend the knee to Donald Trump. It's not a political party anymore, Elizabeth. It's a personality cult, and they're living through this. They're living through this sort of kabuki dance of, oh, we love him so much, even though privately the vast majority of them absolutely loathe the man.
We just heard Rachel report on Liz Cheney's response to this meeting today, saying Trump and his collaborators will be defeated, and history will remember the shame of people like Leader McConnell who enabled them. I mean, polls show this is a dead heat race. Are you confident, like Liz Cheney is, that Trump can actually be defeated here?
I think Liz Cheney is exactly on point here. And at the end of the day, America has come back. In 2020, they decided that Donald Trump was unacceptable for office. Nothing that has happened since then has made Donald Trump more acceptable for public office. He led an insurrection against a free and fair election. He mishandled COVID at a scale that cost 1 million American lives. He is now a guy who has been indicted 91 times. He has been found guilty 34 times of felony charges. Nothing's getting better for Donald Trump, including Donald Trump himself. This is a race that's going to be very difficult. It's very tight. It's going to be a fight to the finish. But I think America is going to win and defeat Donald Trump in November.
Well, and yet, despite what we saw 4 years ago, Rick, Donald Trump is not committing to accepting the 2024 election results. There are reports that the Trump campaign will deploy thousands of election workers to monitor the vote. Do you think there's an understanding, or do you see Donald Trump as a threat to democracy? And is this threat being taken seriously enough by Republicans, by both parties?
Look, I think Donald Trump is an existential threat to the American Republic, which is based on democratic principles. He does not want to have a free and fair election. He wants to be coronated. Donald Trump does not believe that he lost 2020, even though the vast preponderance of every single court case, every single piece of evidence shows that he did. He wants to believe that he can just be crowned as an authoritarian leader in this country. And I think Republicans have now accepted that they're going to have to go along with that. But I also don't think my friends in the Democratic Party have fully internalized the threat that Trump represents, or they'd be more unified right now behind Joe Biden.
We see the division there. And yes, so many of Trump supporters don't believe those 2020 results, already setting the stage not to believe it in 2024. Rick Wilson, thanks so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Florida is under a state of emergency, with some parts of the state under nearly 2 feet of rain and bracing for up to 8 inches more. Tonight, there are warnings of life-threatening and potentially catastrophic flooding. ABC's Victor Oquendo is in Hollandale Beach, just south of Fort Lauderdale, and has the details.
Tonight, life-threatening flooding in Florida, a state of emergency in multiple counties. Feet of rain already, and it's still coming down. Sheets of rain in Bonita Springs, north of Naples. Visibility near zero on roads. The National Weather Service warning of new catastrophic floods after a tropical-fueled deluge that swamped whole neighborhoods in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area, forcing the shutdown of part of I-95 and stranding vehicles everywhere. A day later, it's still hard to tell where the road ends and the water begins.
Crews are pulling that car out of that canal right now. The woman who was driving the car says she didn't realize there was a body of water there. Just look, it's basically even with the street level. She thought she was turning onto another street. Instead, she plunged right in.
Not far from there, Leo Alonso telling me he's towed dozens of vehicles.
Does the phone just not stop ringing right now?
It just won't go. It just keeps going.
One call after another.
I don't even answer anymore.
Really?
I don't even answer. It's too much.
Homeowners in this Fort Lauderdale neighborhood trying in vain to keep the water out of their homes.
I just bought this house.
Marcus Vitale has only lived here 8 months.
Every half an hour or so, I got to go turn it back on to pump it out. So I'll be up all night dealing with that.
The storm's turning deadly in Collier County. 2 people killed in a multi-vehicle accident.
Some scary scenes there. Victor Akendo joins us now. Victor, what's it like out there now, and is it going to get worse?
Well, Elizabeth, here in Hollandale Beach, the streets are inundated, and residents tell me that they are preparing for it to get worse with another round of rain tonight. Let's go to the map from our weather team. A flash flood warning for parts of South Florida, including Fort Lauderdale, through tonight. Up to 8 inches of additional rain possible over the next 24 hours. And the other concern in the east, the heat. Temperatures in the 90s from Atlanta to Philly by Friday afternoon. Some records could be broken. And back here in Hollandale Beach, the ground is so saturated, it won't take much for more flash floods. Elizabeth?
Wow, Victor Akendo, thank you so much. Tonight, a massive wildfire is destroying homes in Arizona. The inferno jumped a major highway, and firefighters are struggling to get a handle on it. For those crews on the front lines, they are in record-breaking heat. Mola Langhi reports.
Tonight, firefighters racing to contain a massive wildfire that destroyed several homes and shut down a major highway near Phoenix. Video showing several buildings on fire near Wickenburg, about an hour northwest of Phoenix. Authorities shutting down Highway 60 in both directions as crews battle the flames from the air and on the ground. Residents on high alert.
Pretty scary last night. I'm thinking, well, if we're going to die, go to sleep.
The Rose Fire scorching nearly 200 acres, and it's 0% contained.
We're trying to do the best we can out there. It's hot. It's really dry. You can tell with all the wind we're having right now.
Much of the Southwest baking under record-breaking heat. Phoenix has seen triple-digit temperatures every day for nearly 3 weeks.
Some scorching temperatures. Mola Langhi joins us now. Mola, talk about the dry conditions, which are certainly not helping firefighters.
Absolutely, Elizabeth. You know, it is dangerously dry throughout the Southwest. In fact, the Phoenix area has not seen any sort of significant rainfall since April 1st. And now an excessive heat warning is in effect through the weekend. Elizabeth?
Mola Langhi, thank you. A new report from the Justice Department has concluded the Phoenix Police Department engaged in civil rights violations. The report asserts officers often fire weapons at people who are not an immediate threat and often inappropriately escalate violence. The report also states the Phoenix Police Department has the highest rate of shootings of any major city. The investigation started in August of 2021 in response to complaints about excessive force. President Biden is on the world stage tonight at a summit with G7 leaders. They agreed on a plan to loan $50 billion to Ukraine using the interest from frozen Russian assets. President Biden and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also signed a historic 10-year security agreement. Senior White House correspondent Selena Wang is traveling with the president in Italy tonight.
Tonight, President Biden and Ukraine's President Zelensky signing a historic security agreement to bolster Ukraine's defenses for 10 years, bringing it closer to NATO and sending a stark message to Vladimir Putin.
You cannot wait us out. You cannot divide us. And we'll be with Ukraine until they prevail in this war.
The U.S. and its G7 allies also agreeing to loan Ukraine $50 billion to buy weapons and help rebuild, a loan to be repaid using interest on frozen Russian assets.
Another reminder to Putin, we're not backing down.
While overseas on the world stage, Biden speaking publicly for the first time about his son Hunter's conviction on federal gun charges.
I'm extremely proud of my son Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know.
Biden today reiterating what he told David, that he has ruled out pardoning his son. I asked him if he's also ruled out shortening Hunter Biden's sentence with a commutation.
Mr. President, would you commute Hunter's sentence?
The president's answer, no.
Selena Wang joins us now from Italy. Selena, what's on the president's schedule there tomorrow?
Hey, Elizabeth. Yeah, tomorrow the president continues his G7 meetings. The focus is going to be on Ukraine, but the president also has a one-on-one meeting with Pope Francis. Now, the president is a practicing Catholic. The last time he had met with the Pope was in 2021. Pope Francis is going to be at the G7 speaking about artificial intelligence, the dangers of the technology, and how to build guardrails to safely use AI. Elizabeth?
Selena Wang, thank you so much. A 59-year-old retired LA County Sheriff's officer has gone missing while hiking in Greece. Albert Calabet was last seen hiking on the island of Amargos, Greece on June 11th at a refreshment stand along a trail, but never reached the other side. Greek police are now studying CCTV footage obtained by a news outlet, appearing to show Calabet dropping items in his car before heading off for a hike. His disappearance comes amid a heat wave with temperatures hitting 107 degrees. A major setback in Russia for Wall Street Journal journalist Evan Gershkovich. He has been formally charged with espionage and will stand trial. ABC's Martha Raddatz has the latest developments.
Tonight, it is official. A major setback for Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, who will now face trial for espionage, indicted with absolutely no evidence presented on charges he was spying for the CIA, charges the U.S., his family, and employer vehemently deny. The 32-year-old Gershkovich has already spent more than a year in a Russian prison while appealing the charges. He was arrested in March of 2023 while on a reporting trip outside of Moscow. The last time he was seen in court keeping a positive attitude.
How are you even?
Today's indictment laying out specific allegations for the first time, accusing Gershkovich of gathering secret information about a Russian facility that produces and repairs military equipment. Gershkovich's parents fled the Soviet Union, settling in the U.S. before he was born. His mother telling ABC News recently she has faith the administration is doing all it can.
We know that the U.S. government is taking Evan's case very seriously, so we are optimistic.
While this is difficult news, it is likely the only way Evan will ever be released. Vladimir Putin has never agreed to a prisoner swap until Americans that Russia charges with crimes are tried in court. And of course, even then, there is no guarantee. Elizabeth?
Martha, thank you. There is still much more news to get ahead here on Prime. Investigators are trying to find the person who started a chant on a subway car, why it could lead to criminal charges. But next, as humanitarian organizations raise the alarm on a possible future famine in Gaza, some aid is being blocked. In tonight's Prime Focus, Britt Clennett shows us how settlers are stopping the aid from reaching those who need it the most.
How did it make you feel when all of that aid that was meant to go into Gaza was destroyed?
شو كنت خايف أنا شو بقول كل شوي بدهم يقتلوني إنه معلم يقول لي اطلع نقلة بالليل بطلت أطلع ولا بقدرش أنا أطلع في مستوطنين على الشارع.
If you were coming of age in the 1980s, the Brat Pack was near the center of your cultural awareness. But for those of us experiencing it from the inside, the Brat Pack was something very different. On June 10th, 1985, New York Magazine published Hollywood's Brat Pack. I just remember seeing that cover and thinking, oh. From then on, my career and the career of everyone who was involved was branded to the Brat Pack.
I'm really sorry that article had to come out.
I've never talked to anybody about what that was like. So I thought it might be interesting to try and contact everyone who was in the Brat Pack. Hey, Emilio Estevez. This is Andrew McCarthy calling you. Hey, Allie. Hey, Demi. Hey, Molly. Let's call Rob. Hello. Judd? Me? You around? You were not interested in talking about the Brat Pack for years.
I turned everything down.
How come you're talking to me?
Because you called me. It was time that we clear the air on a couple things.
I love your stuff, Bob. Hey, thank you. I hated the Brat Pack for decades. What a disaster. If you could have the Brat Pack name not exist, would you?
It really irritated me. They said, what's more important to you, the movie or your life? And I said,
the movie!
Andrew.
Have you talked to the others? The others, like, again, it feels like a cult or something.
Yeah. Why did we take it as an offense?
Well,
as opposed to like
the brat.
Because we were young.
We were afraid we were brats, you know? Are you in the Brat Pack?
I'm Brat Pack adjacent.
That's what I was saying.
I am not in the Brat Pack.
Don't you? Crush on you back in the day?
You did not, Andrew. No, you did not.
Being in the Brat Pack not only changed all of our lives, it changed what entertainment is. I mean, I'm not going to say we were the Beatles or anything.
Well, we didn't fill Shea Stadium. There were moments.
We could have. 1985, I think we could have.
So what are you filming?
Oh, we're just doing this documentary.
What's it about?
Ancient history.
ABC's David Muir, the most watched newscast in America.
Let's go.
The ship is incredible. It feels like living in a science fiction movie.
We just saw what no one has seen before.
Wow, look at that.
Oh my gosh. We are heading into the unknown.
Hammer, hammer, hammer.
It doesn't get any more cutting edge than this.
Welcome back. Tonight, the World Health Organization and the United Nations are warning of famine-like conditions in Gaza. It has been difficult at times for aid to get into the war-torn region and to the people there who badly need it. In tonight's Prime Focus, our Britt Clennett has more on the roadblocks that some aid is facing from settlers in the West Bank long before it ever reaches its intended destination.
It's 5:30 a.m. at the Tokmir checkpoint in the West Bank. Temer is securing the straps around his goods. A combination of flour, sugar and salt, each packet carefully stacked. As he readies his truck full of aid bound for Gaza, there's a deeper fear. It's the first time he's making the journey since he says he was attacked by right-wing Israeli settlers about a month ago. The video, taken by another driver, shows the group sabotaging his truck, tossing bags of flour onto the road.
وبلشوا يكبوا البضاعة ويهجموا إذا بقرب على السيارة يجي يضربوني وطبشوني ما خلوش ولا شيء إذا بتحكي حرف معاهم بضربوك عنف يعني بخلوش إشي عمقتل جايين كان بحقد لما يهجموا على السيارات الحقد بعينيهم مبين.
How did it make you feel when all of that aid that was meant to go into Gaza was destroyed?
شو كنت خايف أنا شو بقول كل شوي بدهم يقتلوني إنه معلم يقول لي اطلع نقلة بالليل بطلت أطلع ولا بقدرش أنا أطلع في مستوطنين على الشارع.
The IDF told ABC News they condemn attacks on truck drivers. Before aid actually reaches Gaza, it changes hands many times over. Temer and the other Palestinian drivers line up their vehicles at the last juncture in the West Bank before they shift their goods onto Israeli trucks so they can be driven through Israel. The goal is for the trucks to end up at one of the 5 gate crossings that lead from Israel to Gaza. And even then, they're met with more protests. As Temer and the others wait to be given the okay to pass, tension between the right-wing settlers and Palestinians from the West Bank is brewing. 2 right-wing settlers are spotted through the gate. They're sending videos of themselves in real time to WhatsApp groups, beckoning others to come join them. It instantly puts these operators on edge.
A lot of commotion, a lot of frustration here as they're now saying that the trucks shouldn't leave.
Eventually, police come to defuse the settlers. Temer gets back into his vehicle and gets through the checkpoint, this time without incident. But about half an hour later at another juncture, the right-wing crowds are determined to block the aid trucks.
What's your goal right now?
הם אנסו, האנשים שמקבלים את האוכל הזה אנסו ורצחו את הילדים שלנו ואנחנו לא צריכים לתת להם אוכל. הכסף הזה שלהם היום מממן את החמאס בעזה. $500 מיליארד הגיע לחמאס בעזה רק במשאיות. מי שיזרוק על אבנים?
There are a lot of innocent people that need that aid as well.
אין שם אנשים תמימים, אין שם בלתי מעורבים, אין. כל האנשים, סליחה, אין ילד אחד, או בן אדם מבוגר אחד שהתקשר למדינת ישראל, אמר להם, יש לי פה חטופה, בואו תצילו אותה. אחד. שיתקשר.
You're saying children in Gaza are not innocent.
לא, ממש לא. והילדים שלנו שחטפו, הם innocent.
There's a lot of hate. I guess that's why you've also got the other protests.
זה לא שנאה, זה לא שנאה. אנחנו לא שונאים אותם. הם שונאים אותנו, זה בדיוק ההפך. אנחנו רוצים לחיות בשקט. אנחנו רוצים רק שקט רציון. אנחנו לא תקפנו אותם כדי להיכנס ליישובים שלנו ולרצוח ולאנוס ולחתוך את הילדים שלנו, לחתוך אותם. צריך שנאה, אנחנו לא עשינו להם את זה.
The Israelis here believe that the aid isn't even going into the hands of Gazans but stolen by Hamas, something aid groups deny. The young settlers resolute, now sitting down on the road, but soon after they are met with pushback from Israeli peace activist Alon Lee Green, who wants the aid to get through. Eventually, the police pluck the protesters up from the ground one by one. None of them are arrested.
What you have here is two Israels. The right-wing settlers here who are trying to block the aid, and on the right, the organisation standing together, which is trying to allow it to go through, and the police in the middle.
Well, I think they see our numbers, and it's obvious that even if they're like 10, we're much more, and we can kind of dismantle any kind of disturbance.
What's your mission here? Why are you doing this?
Because we've witnessed for so many weeks the escalating attacks on the aid trucks. We've seen right-wing groups attacking the trucks. They even set some trucks on fire to send two Palestinian drivers to the hospital. It is a fight over the soul of our own society.
Since the start of the war, the issue of aid has been deeply divisive and highly politicized. Aid groups say Israel could be doing far more to ensure a flow of desperately needed aid is reaching Gaza. UN agencies sounding the alarm over high levels of starvation, especially in the northern part of the Strip. But Israel insists enough aid is being authorized for delivery, and that aid groups are the ones creating logistical challenges resulting in a bottleneck.
I've been working in Palestine for 5 years. And I've gone through 3 wars in Gaza and constant problem situations in the West Bank. And I learned that everything is politicized in this place. I'm pretty much convinced, actually, that there is an intent to set us up for failing.
Andrea De Domenico heads the UN humanitarian office, OCHA. He's just returned from 3 weeks in southern Gaza to help coordinate aid delivery and says the distribution journeys are dangerous and complex.
Tell me about the complications that you get from the Israeli side when you're trying to coordinate getting a truck in.
Israeli count trucks that have been literally dumped at the border. In reality, that's the beginning of the journey of assistance, because from there on starts the most complicated piece of the journey, which is picking up that material and bring it to the people that need it.
And now the UN World Food Programme announcing it's pausing distribution of aid from a US-built pier off Gaza out of safety concerns. It's the latest setback for the $300 million pier, which had only just returned to operation after it was broken by rough seas. But aid groups say that land routes are most efficient for aid delivery. And while the settler disruptions may not have a major impact on stopping the aid from getting to Gaza, peace activists like Alon Lee patrol the area to make sure the aid faces one less hurdle in its journey to Gaza's starving people.
Does it sometimes feel like you're screaming into a void?
In the first weeks and months of the war, because we felt very isolated and very alone and attacked from every direction, but more and more forces are joining us in the call for a ceasefire, in the call for humanizing all the people that live here, people that have been killed in Gaza are not bringing us more safety, and seeing people starving in Gaza is just something that will create more violence that not only Palestinians will pay the price of, but also Israelis will be hurt of. I mean, we are bound to somehow live on this land together.
Just so much suffering. Our thanks to Britt Clennett for that. There is still much more to get to. Coming up, Russia sent a fleet of warships to Cuba for military exercises. How is the U.S. responding with its nuclear sub of its own? But next, Elon Musk is already the world's richest person, so will Tesla shareholders vote today to give him tens of billions more?
There is a price to be paid every time a survivor shares their story.
I think it's so hard to live every day feeling like, like I must be broken.
I had just turned 14. And it was scary. It was scary. I will not be silenced.
This church has been alive for decades, and the next thing you know,
all hell breaks loose.
What is the 2x2 church?
It is a secret sect. It flies under the radar. If you don't agree with them, your salvation is at stake.
A stunning amount of information has come out about the misdeeds of some of the ministers. These same people preaching this message were the ones hiding horrific, horrific things.
Do you feel the church accepted abuse?
I wouldn't say accepted it as so much pretended it didn't exist.
Yep, that's him.
Yep.
Ready?
Kira Phillips with ABC News. Did you sexually abuse Sherry Autry when she was 14 and you were 28?
No comment.
Do you believe your church protected you? Does your church protect sexual predators?
The powerful new Impact by Nightline. So the church saw itself as judge and jury.
There's nothing pretty about hearing this.
Secrets of the 2x2 Church. Now streaming only on Hulu.
You're watching America's #1 streaming news, ABC News Live. Breaking news, exclusives, live reporting across the globe. Keep streaming with ABC News Live.
Hi, I'm Andy. And I'm Sabrina. And we're moms, juggling tons of stuff every day, like all you moms out there. And you know what we love? Really love? Pop culture. So what happens when being obsessed with pop culture collides with being a mom? You get us. So listen now to our new podcast, Pop Culture Moms, wherever you get your podcasts.
With so much at stake in our world right now, more Americans turn here to David than anywhere else. And now, America's most trusted, most watched newscast, ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir, is available to you on YouTube. Now streaming on Hulu.
I'm a rock and roll star. I'm not a saint. I'm John Bon Jovi.
John Bon Jovi, the new special, what you have not yet seen. John Bon Jovi with Michael Strahan. Now streaming on Hulu.
All right, let the dogs out, please.
I don't think he's going to give you a hard time.
Even if he gives me a hard time, I'm the right guy. I want to make sure that we all learn together.
Calm, confident.
Calm, confident, calm, surrender.
Everything that he's taught has become a reality.
Yeah.
We are so grateful and impressed. I feel like crying. You changed our world.
It is a beautiful thing to see. As you rehabilitate the dog, you also rehabilitate you.
Are you ready to celebrate? Sunday, June 30th, across the country. See, experience some of the nation's greatest pride celebrations all in one place as they happen live right here on ABC News Live. Pride across America. Celebrate joy, love, freedom, and pride. Sunday, June 30th, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Streaming on ABC News Live and stream on Hulu.
Reporting from the Normandy coast for the 80th anniversary of D-Day, I'm David Muir. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Tesla shareholders finished voting on a compensation plan for Elon Musk that is the most generous in history. Mind you, it is the same compensation plan approved 6 years ago, but it was later voided by a Delaware state judge after an investor filed lawsuit. The plan now makes the world's richest person far richer, and it is tonight's By the Numbers. Elon Musk is already worth $210 billion, according to Forbes, but his new compensation package in the form of Tesla stock options gives Musk another $55 billion on paper anyway, since it's dependent on Tesla's share price. Ironically, Musk was seeking to replace the $38 billion in Tesla stock he sold in 2022 in order to finance his purchase of Twitter. Because of that sale, his stake in Tesla had dropped to 13%. But the company's board, and now a majority of shareholders, didn't think that was sufficient to keep Musk actively engaged in Tesla's future. Detractors worry that giving Musk the option to buy another 300 million shares will only further dilute their value. Tesla shares have already lost a quarter of their value this year. Investors are especially concerned the company doesn't have any new models coming anytime soon. With the federal government encouraging people to buy electric vehicles, Tesla faces stiffer competition than ever before. Price cuts this year have also eaten into its profits. Much more ahead here on Prime. A new audit is giving the FDA a withering grade on how it handled the baby formula crisis of 2022. And cast members for the hit reality show Queer Eye celebrated 20 years since its first episode. 2 cast members are here to give their thoughts on why the show's been such a groundbreaking success.
I experienced a lot of rejection, a lot of heartache. I'm a tough woman, but it's not easy. I have my days where you gotta do whatever you can to crawl out of those dark holes. You're gonna feel lonely. There was a lot of personal stuff in my life that was really falling apart. It's taken me a really long time to even get to this moment. I feel like every pair of bell bottoms all come with a different story. 19 years old, pulling up to Nashville, I was terrified.
Not everybody makes it.
I was a fish out of water. At times, I was too country for country.
You were living in a trailer for a while.
I remember sitting out in this camper trailer, crying my eyes out, thinking, is it ever gonna happen? But Mom and Daddy didn't raise no quitters. I have had the hardest 2 months of my life. My daddy has not been doing well. We've been through a lot these past few years, and it kind of makes me emotional. Y'all gonna see me cry again. I was scrolling on TikTok. I noticed a few videos of my butt that had gone viral. At first, I was laughing, and I'm like, these people ain't right. No matter what size you are beautiful.
Being a woman in country music can be tough.
And the CMA Award for Album of the Year
for Female Vocalist of the Year,
Entertainer of the Year
goes to Lainey
Wilson.
That was a mic drop.
The Entertainer of the Year, baby.
Lainey's album, Bell Bottom Country, changed the game.
There ain't nothing better than this. Hold my beer, watch this.
What she is doing right now is changing country music.
I do see the bell bottoms and the hat as my superhero outfit.
Go, Lainey!
It's mind-blowing. It's magic. I'm proud of myself. I really am. I have worked my ass off. Now it's time to see what's next. That's what I'm talking about! Woo!
You're watching America's #1 streaming news. Keep streaming with ABC News Live.
For Father's Day, GMA is about to give one deserving dad in desperate need of a style upgrade the makeover of all makeovers. Tomorrow, here's to all the dads we love on GMA.
Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, Shohei Ohtani, legends of the game. But now the list of greats redefined. From ABC News, Reclaim the Forgotten League, a side of the story of baseball you have never heard before like this. The award-winning podcast is back. Listen wherever you get your podcasts or scan the QR codes you see here.
Police in New York City are looking for the man who led an anti-Zionist chant on the subway, what he could be charged with. Russia this week is performing naval exercises off of Cuba's coast, and the U.S. is now responding by sending a nuclear sub of its own. And Simone Biles with moves so unique that they are now being named after her. These stories and more in tonight's Rundown.
NYPD detectives are working to identify the leader of a call and response chant on a subway Monday that went viral. The video shows a group of pro-Palestine protesters asking riders to raise their hands if they're a Zionist, telling them, quote, "This is your chance to get out." The leader, if and when found, is expected to be charged with attempted coercion, police sources tell ABC News. A U.S. Navy submarine has arrived in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba in a show of force after a fleet of Russian warships gathered for planned military exercises in the Caribbean. The USS Helena, a nuclear-powered fast attack sub, pulled into the U.S. base today. Other U.S. ships have been tracking and monitoring the Russian drills, which Pentagon officials say do not represent a threat to the U.S. A new audit is criticizing how the FDA responded to the baby formula crisis of 2022. According to the report, one whistleblower complaint said a year before Abbott's eventual recall of some of its infant formula was inadvertently achieved and sat unread in a box for 15 months. And a subsequent complaint from the same whistleblower said months after the first sat in the FDA's mailroom unread. The FDA is already implementing changes, including establishing an office for critical foods like formula and taking steps to improve policies for complaints, recalls, and infant formula inspections. Mortgage rates eased again this week, falling to 6.95% according to mortgage buyer Freddie Mac. The 30-year rate in the past year peaked at over 7.7% and has been hovering near a two-decade high, adding hundreds of dollars a month in costs on a home loan, limiting home buyers' purchasing options. In-N-Out Burger has confirmed price changes on its Double Double and other menu items. The California-based fast food chain had previously maintained famously low prices, but like many California restaurants, it says it's not immune to increased labor costs. Since California's new minimum wage laws came into effect, the company says that the price of a Double Double, French fries, and drink increased by 25 to 50 cents, depending on the location. The company says its starting wage at California locations is now $22 to $23 per hour. Simone Biles made history countless times, not only for the number of titles she's won, but also the move she's been the first to perform in competition. Biles now has 5 signature moves named after her in 3 different events: on the floor, on vault, and on the balance beam. She became the most decorated gymnast of all time after winning her 6th all-around world championship gold in the fall. Fans can expect to see more of her signature moves at the Olympic Games this summer in Paris.
Cast members past and present from the hit reality show Queer Eye traveled to the White House, but it wasn't for a makeover, rather to celebrate the 20 years since the show's very first episode and the lasting impact that it's had on the LGBTQ community. As part of Pride Month, Vice President Kamala Harris today hosted the groundbreaking show's creators and cast to talk visibility. Joining me now from the White House North Lawn is the original cast member, Carson Kressley, and current cast member, Karamo Brown. Guys, I understand that this is the first time that members of the so-called Fab Five from both iterations have been able to come together, and what a place to do it right there from the White House. We're so happy to have you. Karamo,
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I think we kind of met up when the old Queer Eye was kicking off the new Queer Eye. Was that like 8 years ago?
8 years ago.
And we haven't seen each other since, but we both haven't aged.
You both look as young as ever. I mean, Karamo, what's your message being there? Karamo, I'll go to you, being there at the White House today.
Well, first of all, it's been super exciting, but one of the things that Vice President Harris said to me that I will take with me is that right now, none of us can abandon our country, which means you need to get out there and vote. You need to make sure your voice is being heard, because as I brought up with her, there is this sort of apathy that people have as if, like, I'm not going to get involved right now. And this is a moment in history where your vote matters, your voice matters, and we cannot abandon our democracy or our country.
You know, Carson, when the show first started 20 years ago, there was a Gallup poll that found 61% of Americans opposed same-sex marriage then. I mean, we have undoubtedly seen so much progress on that front. You know, same-sex marriage legal in all 50 states. So talk about that progress, but also a lot of challenges right now facing the LGBTQ community when you think about what's going on at the state level, local level, even at the national level.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen so many great strides for LGBTQ rights and equality, from gay marriage to adoption rights, etc. But at the same time, we find ourselves in a place right now where there's literally hundreds of anti-LGBTQ bills and legislation, proclamations out there that we really need to push back against. And I think, you know, yes, we've made progress, but we always need to keep pushing forward. And I think equality, whether it's gay rights or just human rights, they're the same thing. you know, a rising tide lifts all boats, and I think, you know, rights for everybody are so important. We can lift everybody up in this process.
Karma, you're Queer Eye's, you know, culture and lifestyle expert. You've been that for 8 seasons. You walk people through their lives to get to their best selves. So what do you think can be done when we think about the progress that needs to be made, and what's holding people back?
Well, I think that there's a lot of fear-mongering that holds people back. I think people are being told that this person that is different than you is here to hurt you, and that's not right. As Carson just said, a rising tide lifts us all up. And if we can realize that if we can appreciate each other's differences, and then at the end of the day, all we want is the same thing. I've spent a lot of time on my daytime talk show, going around the world saying we are all alike. At the end of the day, we want safety, security, our kids to be safe, us to be safe, to know that we're going to be good tomorrow. And we have to make sure that we're not doing anything to hurt someone else.
Does being there in Washington at the White House inspire either of you to get into politics?
Oh, gosh. I don't think so. I think I'm going to stick to zhuzhing people and making them cute. But I am going to get out there and vote and inspire everybody to vote, because that's really our unique privilege being Americans, is to get out there from the local level all the way to the president and have a say in the country that you want us to be.
Not doing a makeover at the White House quite yet, I gather, but maybe one.
No, we don't need to do that here.
Guys, thank you so much, Carson Cramo. So great to have you here for your time, and happy Pride. You can stream Queer Eye. You can of course stream it on Netflix with its 9th season now in the works. A wild day at an amusement park in Ohio after camels break free from a petting zoo. The fugitive animals were seen trotting around the popular Cedar Point amusement park. The park said that no one was hurt and the camels just decided to take a little unplanned stroll. They were quickly returned to the petting zoo area, and officials are trying to figure out exactly how they escaped. You might know our next guest as the memorable vocalist behind hit singles Wake Me Up and I Need a Dollar. But singer, rapper, and musician Aloe Blacc is now back with new music, proving that he really is the man. The Grammy-nominated artist is kicking off the summer with a new EP, Rock My Soul Volume 1, a cover project. Take a listen to his cover of No Doubt's Don't Speak.
And if it's real, well, I don't want to know. Don't speak, I know just what you're saying, so please stop explaining.
Gotta love it. Joining us now is none other than Aloe Blacc. Aloe, thanks so much for being here tonight. Love to listen to that. Talk a little bit about your inspiration to create this unique spin for Rock My Soul.
You know, I love music, all kinds of music, and even though I grew up making hip-hop and I sing soul music now and pop, alternative rock has always had a place in my heart. And I was thinking with a friend of mine named Otis McDonald, he's a great producer, what could we do to collaborate in a way that was novel, interesting, a little bit of nostalgia, but something that was transformative.
So how do you go about picking the songs to recreate for both volumes 1 and 2? I mean, a lot of these songs people really know, they have it in their head, and you want to make sure you live up to that, but it's also different.
So, you know, part of it is looking at my heroes in soul music. Stevie Wonder, Nina Simone. These artists, they would take songs from other artists, sometimes rock songs. Like I would say Stevie Wonder's We Can Work It Out by the Beatles. We just thought, this was cool back then, why can't we do the same thing today? And I wanted to reimagine some of the bigger rock songs, the titles that everybody knows, just to see if we could really do something that would turn people's heads and make our heads nod. I think that we were able to accomplish at least one of those.
Well, and some of the bands are pretty iconic. We're talking about Nirvana, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Was there something about those ones you chose that said to you, this is gonna be it, this is the song?
You know, in some way, I have a relationship to each of these songs. You know, with Under the Bridge, for example, I lived steps away from MacArthur Park, where the bridge mentioned in the song exists. With Don't Speak, I hail from Southern California, Orange County in particular, and I know that No Doubt also has a relationship to Orange County. And so, you know, picking the songs really was about do I have a connection to it? Is it something that I really feel that I can communicate? And also, is it one of the biggest songs of all time? Yes, yes, and yes. Let's go.
That's a pretty high bar to meet in those ways, but love to hear it. Let's switch gears a little bit. You are included in this new documentary, Following Harry, which is a film that for more than 10 years in the making has focused on the life, career, and activism of the great late icon, Harry Belafonte. Discuss a little bit about your relationship with Harry.
Harry Belafonte was a mentor, and he was a friend. I was honored to have the opportunity to spend any time with him. As an artivist, my goal is to use my voice for positive social transformation, looking at his career, how he used his voice, his presence, his celebrity, and his philanthropy to transform America in a positive way. You know, he was very instrumental in the civil rights movement. So that relationship, learning from him, offers me the opportunity to use my voice. And so I'm putting together an album now called Stand Together. And that album is inspired by nonprofit organizations. Each song is an amplifier for amazing work that organizations are doing in their communities.
We are excited about that. And thank you so much, Aloe, for being here. The documentary, Following Harry, is going to premiere at the Tribeca Film Festival on Friday, June 14th. And Aloe Black's EP, Rock My Soul Volume 1, is available now on all streaming platforms. That is our show for tonight. I'm Elizabeth Schulze. ABC News Live is here for you with all the latest news, context, and analysis. You can always find us on Hulu, Roku, Pluto TV, and the ABC News app, and of course on abcnews.com. And coming up in the next hour, the unanimous Supreme Court ruling upholding access to the widely used abortion pill mifepristone, and Justice Kavanaugh in his own words. And in Kenya, what caused a police officer to shoot a court magistrate in the middle of a court proceeding?
Why do so many people start their day here?
From ABC News, this is Start Here.
To be in the know and get a different take on the day's top stories.
A lot of news today, so let's get into it.
Listen now to the Daily News Podcast honored with 4 Edward R. Murrow Awards and see why the New York Times calls it a news podcast worth listening to. Start Here, ABC News. Make it your daily first listen.
Now, that's a part of the story I bet you didn't see coming.
Wherever you get your podcasts, Start Here.
How do you feel?
Gay as hell.
I see you.
I love it here.
Is this real?
100%.
I think you still look at me that way.
Will you marry me? I want pageantry that takes months and months to plan.
My girls have a fun.
Here's to Good Mornings in America.
Can you feel the love?
Oh, yeah.
Mornings that inspire, filled with hope, kindness, joyous surprises, and so much fun.
This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
Start your day with Good Morning America's ray of sunshine, highlighting the best of America and helping
make dreams come true. Wow. I'm just so happy. It is so good.
Get ready to smile and put the good into your morning, America, because
You know what will make the morning better? A little ray of sunshine.
What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
An operation to capture ISIS fighters.
Is this our Combat Operations Center?
We're approaching the gate now. Militants came in from 4 or 5 different directions. Operational nuclear reactor. So you have a couple loaded and ready to go. The house is destroyed, but the flag, there's not a tear in it.
Not a tear in it.
How important is this label right here, Made in the USA? Look at your smile. You're proud of this.
I love this.
Great work. Hi. Where are you? Where are you?
Appreciate you.
Thank you, David. Good to meet you.
Ismail? David.
David.
Yes, yes. I'm David Muir.
I know who you are.
You
Watch
do?
you every night.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
I'm Anthony Mackie. Like most fishermen, sharks used to terrify me. If the shark gets too close,
I should hit it in the nose.
Well, you don't need to hit it.
I'm on a quest to find out why these apex predators, that's amazing, are swiping fishermen's hard-earned catches. What? You saw that?
Shark Beach with Anthony Mackie.
Woo! That's our fish. Look at that.
Part of the sharkiest 4-week celebration this summer. Shark Fest starts June 30th at 9 on National Geographic.
Reporting from Monterey Park, California, I'm Robin Roberts. Wherever the story is, we're going to take you there. You're streaming ABC News live.
Good evening, everyone. This is ABC News Live Prime. I'm Elizabeth Schulze in for Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We have got a lot of news to get to this evening, including the unanimous decision on the abortion pill. The news coming out of Washington tonight upholding the legality of mifepristone, the ruling that'll impact millions and millions of women. Plus, new storms after record rain, a tropical system hovering over the state of Florida, rescues, deadly crashes, and the heat wave coming to the east. We will have a report from the ground. And the potentially good news for the future of the giant panda, what Chinese scientists say about their efforts to reintroduce the bears back into the wild. But we begin with that major Supreme Court ruling leaving access to the abortion pill mifepristone unchanged, including getting it through the mail. In the unanimous ruling, the justices all agreed that the doctor suing did not have grounds to bring the lawsuit in the first place. But tonight, abortion rights advocates are worried that the ruling does not shut the door on others from bringing similar lawsuits. In response to the ruling, anti-abortion rights groups vowed to fight to restrict access to the medication, saying the fight is not over. Terry Moran leads us off tonight from the Supreme Court.
Tonight, a unanimous Supreme Court has upheld access to the widely used abortion pill mifepristone for now. All 9 justices found common ground in rejecting an effort by anti-abortion rights medical organizations and individual doctors to roll back the FDA's regulations that provide access to the drug for millions of American women. Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who wrote the opinion for the court, noted, "The plaintiffs have sincere legal, moral, ideological, and policy objections to elective abortion and to FDA's relaxed regulation of mifepristone." But that's not enough, the court ruled, because the plaintiff doctors failed to show that they were personally, demonstrably injured by the law. That's a bedrock requirement of constitutional law known as standing to sue. And the doctors' moral qualms don't qualify, Kavanaugh emphasized, writing, "Those kinds of objections alone do not establish a justiciable case or controversy in federal court." Kavanaugh also warned that if these doctors could bring a court case challenging federal laws, so could others, posing this hypothetical. The government repeals certain restrictions on guns. Does a surgeon have standing to sue because he might have to operate on more gunshot victims? Abortion rights advocates welcomed the ruling.
Hugely relieved that the court threw the case out, but frankly angry that we ever were there to begin with.
But they know the court has left this controversy open for future fights. Medication abortions account for approximately 63% of all abortions in the United States, and today's ruling means that in most states where abortion is legal, women can still receive the pill by mail and without seeing a medical provider in person first. But there are currently 14 states with a near total ban on all abortions, including the use of this pill, mifepristone, medication abortions. In addition, 5 more have taken steps to restrict the practice of prescribing abortion pills by telemedicine or delivering the pills through the mail. Anti-abortion rights activists today vowed to keep up their fight.
It was disappointing, but it's not the end. We'll be out here again.
Terry Moran, thank you. Florida is under a state of emergency with some parts of the state under nearly 2 feet of rain and bracing for up to 8 inches more. Tonight, there are warnings of life-threatening and potentially catastrophic flooding. ABC's Victor Oquendo is in Hollandale Beach, just south of Fort Lauderdale, and has the details.
Tonight, life-threatening flooding in Florida, a state of emergency in multiple counties. Feet of rain already, and it's still coming down. Sheets of rain in Bonita Springs, north of Naples. Visibility near zero on roads. The National Weather Service warning of new catastrophic floods after a tropical fuel deluge that swamped whole neighborhoods in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area. forcing the shutdown of part of I-95 and stranding vehicles everywhere. A day later, it's still hard to tell where the road ends and the water begins.
Crews are pulling that car out of that canal right now. The woman who was driving the car says she didn't realize there was a body of water there. Just look, it's basically even with the street level. She thought she was turning onto another street. Instead, she plunged right in.
Not far from there, Leo Alonso telling me he's towed dozens of vehicles.
Does the phone just not stop ringing right now?
It just won't go. It just keeps going.
One call after another.
I don't even answer anymore.
Really?
I don't even answer. It's too much.
Homeowners in this Fort Lauderdale neighborhood trying in vain to keep the water out of their homes.
I just bought this house.
Marcus Vitali has only lived here 8 months.
Every half an hour or so, I got to go turn it back on to pump it out. So I'll be up all night dealing with that.
The storm's turning deadly in Collier County. 2 people killed in a multi-vehicle accident.
Devastating for those communities. Victor, thank you. A new report from the Justice Department has concluded the Phoenix Police Department engaged in civil rights violations. The report asserts officers often fire weapons at people who are not an immediate threat and often inappropriately escalate violence. The report also states the Phoenix Police Department has the highest rate of shootings of any major city. The investigation started in August of 2021 in response to complaints about excessive force. President Biden is on the world stage tonight at a summit with G7 leaders. The leaders agreed on a plan to loan $50 billion to Ukraine using profits from frozen Russian assets. President Biden and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also signed an historic 10-year security agreement, their stark message to Vladimir Putin. ABC's Selena Wang has that and is traveling with the president in Italy tonight.
Tonight, President Biden and Ukraine's President Zelensky signing a historic security agreement to bolster Ukraine's defenses for 10 years, bringing it closer to NATO and sending a stark message to Vladimir Putin.
You cannot wait us out. You cannot divide us. And we'll be with Ukraine until they prevail in this war.
The U.S. and its G7 allies also agreeing to loan Ukraine $50 billion to buy weapons and help rebuild, a loan to be repaid using interest on frozen Russian assets.
Another reminder to Putin, we're not backing down.
While overseas on the world stage, Biden speaking publicly for the first time about his son Hunter's conviction on federal gun charges.
I'm extremely proud of my son Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the greatest, most decent men I know.
Biden today reiterating what he told David, that he has ruled out pardoning his son. I asked him if he's also ruled out shortening Hunter Biden's sentence with a commutation.
Mr. President, would you commute Hunter's sentence?
The president's answer, no.
Selena Wang, thank you. Donald Trump is back on Capitol Hill. It is his first visit since the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Republican members of Congress right there with him, including Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who once said that Trump was responsible for January 6th. Senior congressional correspondent Rachel Scott reports from the Hill.
Tonight, Donald Trump appearing on Capitol Hill for the first time since his supporters stormed the building on January 6th, meeting with Republican congressional leaders.
We have great unity. We have great common sense.
Some Republican lawmakers sounding starstruck.
He saw me in there and he was like, "Hello, Marjorie." He's always so sweet and recognizes me. And he said, "Are you being nice?" He was joking. "Are you being nice to Speaker Johnson?" And I said, "Eh." And he said, "Okay, be nice to him." And I nodded my head.
Even Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, who once called Trump practically and morally responsible for January 6th, today shaking his hand. Behind closed doors, Trump reportedly attacking the city of Milwaukee, where Republicans are holding their convention next month. Punchbowl News reporting Trump told lawmakers, "Milwaukee, where we are having our convention, is a horrible city." When word got out, House Republicans rushing to offer explanations. Some saying Trump was specifically talking about crime in Milwaukee, while others claimed he was actually talking about election integrity. Trump later insisted he was talking about both.
Rachel Scott, thank you. A major setback in Russia for Wall Street Journal journalist Evan Gershkovich. He has been formally charged with espionage and will stand trial. ABC's Martha Raddatz has those latest developments.
Tonight, it is official. A major setback for Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, who will now face trial for espionage, indicted with absolutely no evidence presented on charges he was spying for the CIA. charges the U.S., his family, and employer vehemently deny. The 32-year-old Gerskovich has already spent more than a year in a Russian prison while appealing the charges. He was arrested in March of 2023 while on a reporting trip outside of Moscow. The last time he was seen in court keeping a positive attitude.
How are you even?
Today's indictment laying out specific allegations for the first time, accusing Gerskovich of gathering secret information about a Russian facility that produces and repairs military equipment. Gerskovich's parents fled the Soviet Union, settling in the U.S. before he was born. His mother telling ABC News recently she has faith the administration is doing all it can.
We know that the U.S. government is taking Evan's case very seriously, so we are optimistic.
Martha Raddatz, thank you. In Greece tonight, there is an urgent search amid searing heat for a retired LA sheriff's deputy who had gone for a hike. And there's news coming in of a second American now missing too. Kayna Whitworth reports.
Amid blistering heat across Greece that has shuttered schools, tonight a desperate search for a California man, one of 3 tourists who recently vanished. 59-year-old Albert Calabay, a retired sheriff's deputy from LA County, was vacationing on the rugged island of Amorgos. Greek police now studying the CCTV footage obtained by a news outlet appearing to show Calabay dropping items off in his car before heading off for a hike.
He was on a well-traveled path, and he was meeting a friend at the end of the path, and he was continuing on his path when somebody saw him an hour later.
He was last spotted at 11 at a refreshment stand along the trail, but he never reached the other side. The heat later soaring into the mid-90s, and today, temperatures in Athens hitting 107. An experienced hiker, Calabay has been traveling to Greece for years. His friends and family now joining the search.
You know, it's a 4-hour trail or a 5-hour trail. They should have been able to see him on the trail by now.
And Elizabeth, we're just now hearing from Greek media that yet another American man has also gone missing, a 55-year-old. It happened on Tuesday on the Greek island of Mathraki. So now, Elizabeth, another search is also underway for him as well.
Kayna, thank you. A discovery decades in the making tonight. The wreckage of a private plane that disappeared in 1971. 5 men were on board when the aircraft vanished after taking off in poor weather conditions. And it's now been found in Vermont's Lake Champlain. A search and rescue operation 53 years ago was hindered when the lake was frozen. At least 17 other searches did not yield results, but a company specializing in underwater searches analyzed old sonar, identifying a new potential crash location. There's still much more news to get to. Coming up, an economics correspondent for the New York Times alleges that the chokeholds certain companies had on their markets made the supply chain breakdown during the pandemic worse than it had to be. But next, they're cute, they're cuddly, and now there are more of them. China's efforts to reintroduce panda bears into the wild are finally paying off.
Whenever news breaks,
we are here in Israel, a nation at war after that brutal surprise attack by Hamas.
On the ground in Ukraine, reporting from Lewiston, Maine.
The scene of a horrific mass shooting.
ABC News Live is right there everywhere.
From the scene of that deadly missile strike in Dnipro, Ukraine.
Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey.
In rolling forward, this tornado tore through this little town.
From the most devastating disaster in Hawaii.
From Charleston, South Carolina, on the 2024 campaign trail.
In Iceland, let's go.
Traveling with the president in Mexico City.
Wherever the story.
From the front lines, from southern Israel.
Outside the Gaza Strip.
In Beirut.
From the FBI.
Reporting from the nurses on the picket line.
Here at 10 Downing Street in London.
Streaming live to you.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is, we're going to take you there.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live, streaming free everywhere. America's #1 streaming news.
There is a price to be paid every time a survivor shares their story. I will not be silenced.
Do you feel the church accepted abuse?
I wouldn't say accepted it as so much pretended it didn't exist.
Yep, that's him.
Yep.
Ready? Kira Phillips with ABC News. Does your church protect sexual predators?
The powerful new Impact by Nightline. Secrets of the 2x2 Church.
There's nothing pretty about hearing this.
now streaming on Hulu.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any place else. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir.
We have made it through another week together.
America's most watched program across all of television.
GMA's surprise people across the country, helping find thousands in unclaimed money.
This really is a big check.
Yeah! And this summer, we're at it again.
That's incredible.
Because nothing's better than hearing you say,
"Show me the money!"
on Good Morning America.
Reporting from the Capitol, I'm Rachel Scott. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
We are tracking several headlines around the world. Israeli forces raided a town in the occupied West Bank, killing 3 Palestinians and detaining several others in what the army described as an operation to preempt militant attacks. The West Bank has seen a surge in violence since the start of the war between Israel and Hamas. The army described the 2 of the people killed as senior terrorists, but did not elaborate further. A police officer shot at a magistrate at a court in Kenya's capital of Nairobi. Officials say it happened after the magistrate rejected the bond request for the police officer's wife. That officer was later killed in a shootout with other law enforcement. The judge and 3 officers hurt in the shootout are in stable condition. Some possible good news for the future of the giant panda. Chinese scientists say efforts to reintroduce the bears back into the wild are paying off. Since 2003, China has reintroduced 12 giant pandas into the wild and says they are now having cubs in gradually increasing numbers. The country now has nearly 70 preserves to protect the bears. Our next guest is a global economics correspondent for the New York Times, renowned for his in-depth reporting in his new book, How the World Ran Out of Everything. Peter Goodman is taking a deeper look at how the global supply chain was impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and how it could still be impacting your daily life. Peter Goodman, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Talk a little bit about what inspired you to write this book. We all remember those days where people didn't even know what the supply chain was.
Sure.
And then very quickly we learned about the supply chain during COVID.
Yeah, I mean, it was cosmically bewildering, right? We're already dealing with quarantine, kids cooped up with distance learning. And suddenly, I mean, in my own case, I'm living in London with a newborn, born in April 2020. And we're dealing with the fact that we can't find hand sanitizer. We can't find the ingredients to make hand sanitizer. We're hearing frontline medical workers are treating COVID patients without any protective gear. And you just wondered, like, what's going on here?
Yeah, that was a scary time for a lot of folks to realize how dependent we are on the supply chain.
I mean, we are dependent upon this kind of rickety, improvised series of networks heavily focused on China. One thing is missing and suddenly there's serious shortages, and we're still there for many products. And we're back in a shipping crisis because the Houthis are opening fire on container ships heading toward the Red Sea. So we're again seeing shipping prices going up, and this is at the center of our inflation problems as well.
Well, in your book, you allege that for decades, some of the largest businesses had amassed chokeholds on their markets while limiting the supply of their products as a way to charge higher prices. Talk about that allegation a little bit.
So monopoly power is at the center of this, right? We all like to think about supply and demand. If demand is constrained, well, then we understand that the price is supposed to drop. If there are shortages, then eventually production kicks in and makes more stuff and prices kind of equalize. But we have so many markets, like I focus on the beef industry, where the robber barons would blush. You know, 4 companies control 85% of the capacity for meat packing in the United States. So even while ranchers are going out of business because they can't find people to buy their cattle in the midst of the pandemic, and we've got slaughterhouse workers. I profile a woman who actually lost her life at a slaughterhouse in Greeley, Colorado, when we decide, you know, we got to keep these plants going, and the public is told, if not, you know, we're going to run out of meat. Well, these meat packers are actually exporting more meat than ever in this time. So we essentially are sacrificing the lives of slaughterhouse workers for profit margins for monopoly companies. When things are scarce, price goes up. We know that. And there's a lot of engineered scarcity in this economy.
Is that still the case as much today as it was 2-3 years ago during the pandemic? We've heard a lot more about this issue of the robber baron and this corporate greed and companies having this market power, but has anything been done to change that?
I mean, the unfunny punchline of my book is every chapter, whether we're looking at rail, trucking, shipping, which is essentially this large unregulated international cartel where, during the worst of the pandemic, we saw shortages of containers. We saw the cost of moving factory goods from Asia to the West Coast of the United States, which is the gateway for most of our imports, go up tenfold. Well, we're there right now. We're seeing shipping prices soar back close to those levels. This is not a history book. This is a book about the present and the future.
That's concerning when we do have this already persistent inflation, those higher costs that people are still struggling with, even as it's gotten better.
Well, that's right. I mean, the inflation rate has cooled quite a bit, but the prices haven't come down for all sorts of things. That's not news for anybody who's gone to the store to buy milk or eggs for their family, put gas in their car. I mean, we've got scarcity. A lot of it's engineered, some of it's disruption from the supply chain. But if we don't figure out how to make this system work, not just for the investor class, but for society as a whole, and also for working people, we're dependent upon this army of working people who most of us don't give a thought to.
A sobering reminder as we forget when it's not quite in front of us as it was a couple years ago, but still a problem there, as you point out. Peter, thanks so much for being here
Thanks
tonight.
so much for having me.
How the World Ran Out of Everything is now available wherever books are sold. And still to come, this dad of 6 ditched his day job for a life on TikTok, why millions are flocking to hear his parenting advice.
Whenever, wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed. Here in London, in Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas, Edinburgh, Scotland. Reporting from Rolling Fork, Mississippi. Ukrainian refugees here in Warsaw. We're heading to a small community outside of Mexico City. Getting you behind the stories as they happen. ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Stream ABC News Live weeknights wherever you stream your news. Only on ABC News Live.
They call him the beauty queen killer. He's targeting young women in malls.
I am single. I want to join the company of a member of women.
He tortured me.
How did she survive 9 days of terror?
The word accomplice came up. Nobody knows the real story.
The Beauty Queen Killer. Only on Hulu. Good Morning America Monday. Kickstart your week with Creed. Creed performing live for you this Monday on tour on GMA. Sponsored by Live Nation.
If you could have the Brat Pack name not exist, would you? I hated the Brat Pack. What a disaster.
Why did we take it as an offense?
Andrew.
Are you ready to celebrate? Sunday, June 30th, across the country. See, experience some of the nation's greatest pride celebrations all in one place as they happen live right here on ABC News Live. Pride across America. Celebrate joy, love, freedom, and pride. Sunday, June 30th, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Streaming on ABC News Live and stream on Hulu.
We turn now to our weekly segment, TikTok, where we take a closer look at the story behind the sensation. Most heroes wear capes, but for Dave Ogleton, known to his 1.3 million followers on TikTok as Fit Dad CEO, proves that being a father of 6 and a dad influencer can be just as heroic.
Me be a butler to my kids? Yeah, never. If I make a meal, they're gonna eat it. Okay, all right, I have Wendy's chicken nuggets for Millie with the breading peeled off because it's too spicy. And for you, we have grilled cheese with the crust cut into intricate jigsaw-style type shapes. Now, I would like to point out that neither of these meals were prepared near each other.
It is almost Father's Day, and Dadfluencer Dave Ogleton joins us in studio. Welcome to the show. It's so great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You know, you have been called one of the funniest dads on social media. What prompted you to kind of start this as its own job, in addition to being a dad and that being a huge job?
Like just being a dad in itself is more than enough. But yeah, I have a ton of inspiration at home, 6 kids, and the inspiration and content just comes to me all the time. Mm-hmm. So once I got started back in 2019, it evolved from dad jokes to parent content and just kept rolling from there.
When you are thinking, when you're watching your kids day to day, do you just feel like they are providing the inspiration for you all the time? Like, how much of what they do versus what you do is thought out in advance, and how much of it just sort of comes to you because they're giving you that material?
Some of my most viral content is something that I just started the camera and started recording from something that either happened that day or something that I know is coming down the road and I'm just inspired by. But if they do something, I mean, every time I talk to, my wife, I'm always like, we got to make a video about this. You know, if something happens, we got to make a video about it. And usually, like, we try to do it as quickly as possible because we're inspired in that moment. So,
but it's an art to also be able to capture that moment on camera. I mean, sometimes the funniest things happen and you miss it.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we're not capturing like real life actual situations, so we have to simulate it the best we can, and to add that comedic spin to it, it just makes it so much more fun.
Your content is super relatable, but it's also opened doors to some pretty big collaborations for you with the NFL, Apple TV, Uber. Plus, you've got a lot of fans like Mark Wahlberg, Khloe Kardashian. I mean, what's it been like for you to expand the brand like that?
I mean, honestly, I didn't expect it, but because it is so relatable, a lot of those people that you mentioned are our parents, and they get it. And to be able to see situations, no matter who you are or where you are in life, that relate to you, you're going to be a fan, I think, no matter what.
We hear a lot about momfluencers. I mean, that was kind of the initial. I get fed a lot of content on all the apps about that. Do you feel like being a dadfluencer is helping shape the narrative too? From dads, like, do you hear from dads reach out and say, thanks for kind of being the face of this?
Yeah, I mean, the funniest thing is I'll get people who aren't even parents yet, and they're like, I can't wait to be a dad just so that I can either use one of your dad jokes or like go through these things that you're talking about. So yeah, it's fun being, seeing how mom influencers have, even make their funny content, and then how now dad, influencers are now showing that same, side of it, but from their perspective.
Has your perspective on parenting changed since you grew this massive following on TikTok?
Not really. It's kind of it, and that's what the beauty of it is. It hasn't. You can have 10 million followers on there, and being a parent's not going to change any. Like the dynamics of being a parent aren't going to change just because you have 10 million followers. If anything, it just continues to keep rolling and giving me inspiration for ideas.
Do your kids do they want to give you that inspiration? And by the way, do you think your kids want to be influencers too now?
I think my one daughter, Sophie, she might have the possibility. My son is in a few of my videos. He's funny when he's in stuff. But I mean, if they wanted to go that route, more power to them. But as far as them wanting to be my inspiration, then it is what it is. I typically don't mention any names or anything, so like it's okay. But I think they're okay with it.
Well, it is so funny and so fun and great to have a chance to talk to you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Dave, thanks so much again for joining us. And you should check out Dave on TikTok at FitDadCEO for your dad jokes and ageless humor there. That is our show for tonight. I'm Elizabeth Schulze. ABC News Live is here for you with all the latest news, context, and analysis. You can always find us on Hulu, Roku, Pluto TV, and the ABC News app, and of course on abcnews.com.
How do you feel?